You are going to be okay. But acknowledge what you went through was horrific, absolutely horrific. And nobody can understand what you went through. Nobody can. You have everything and anything you need within you. So lean in and don't follow anybody. Just be you, because you know exactly what to do. You have to have self-compassion. There's no other way. However, you are becoming a different person, but you are becoming who you've always meant to be and who you are authentically inside. Because without awareness, there is no change.
Right.
But when we have the awareness that we're doing this to ourselves and not others, then we can take the step to change and to shift our mindset, to shift our perspective, and to change our attitude. And when you do this work, when I went through this work, the transformation is just magical. I mean, it is unbelievably incredible.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken Beautiful Me. And today I am so honored to have as our guest Robyn Engelson. She is an energy solution expert, an autoimmune specialist, nutrition educator, speaker, and host of the Robyn Engelson podcast, and author of her new book, Exhausted to Energized. She transforms lives around the globe by helping people to be their best selves and retraining their mindsets. She equips people to become models of positive change and to go from exhausted to energized. During her journey of healing from thyroid autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, and hypothyroidism, she stopped at nothing to find a healthy solution. She is a beach lover and a hip hop dancer, and her biggest gift is being a mom. Welcome, Robyn. That's so wonderful. That's my biggest gift too.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I'm excited to be here and add value to your listeners.
Wonderful. So, if just to start off for my listeners who may not know you or your work, just kind of give us a brief overview of what you do and how you help people.
Absolutely. So I am a wellness lifestyle transformer, kind of encompasses everything that you mentioned in my bio. So I take people from burnout, from exhaustion, from chronic illness, from trauma, to thriving, to excitement, to living life and having joy injections every single day. And I did this on my own. So I walk the walk, I talk the talk. Like, I've been there, done that. So the way my coaching business started is that I actually come from the marketing and advertising world. And then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism unexpectedly when I was trying to get pregnant with my second child. And after that diagnosis, I got sicker and sicker and sicker from the medication. And 5 doctors later, they kept telling me that I was fine because my blood work was getting better, but I was feeling worse. My hair was falling out. My nails were brittle. My skin was itchy. I was exhausted, sleeping 10 to 12 hours a night. I wasn't a present parent. I had brain fog. I couldn't continue working my 6-figure plus income. And so I said, you know what? If the doctors can't help me, it's meant to be, it's up to me. So I figured out my nutrition, my fitness, my mindset, and my accountability for my autoimmune disease. And what happened, Kelly, is that, and for the listeners out there, is that people started to know and notice that I was changing. Something was different. So they started asking my friends, my neighbors, my family. And I started helping a couple of people on the side just do what I was doing every single day, right? Because it's the small daily habits that get us to the bigger goal.
Yes.
And guess what? They got results. They started to feel better. They started to get clarity. They started to be energized, right? They started to feel like they were living instead of going through the motions of life. Mm-hmm. And so organically, that's how my coaching business started. And it's 13 years later. I keep saying 10 or 12, but it's been 13 at this point. Time flies. And it's really just been a journey of evolution of truly helping people be their best selves and have a life reset.
That is so wonderful. And, I love that you took your personal experience and applied that into helping others. Cause I think that that's what our general life purpose should be, isn't it? It's from our own struggles and then translating them into help. Um, so when you made this decision and you reached out and you're in this marketing career and you said, okay, I'm going to change direction completely. I'm sure people kind of looked at you funny. I know I come from a healthcare background and people kind of looked at me and went, "Oh, okay, you're taking a exit stage right. I'm kind of taking a different direction." Um, so how did you explain that to them about this internal change that you had gone through and how it was prompting you down this new path?
Kelly, I love that question because so many times people said to me, why are you doing this? I don't understand what's happening. You're giving up 6-figure plus income. And I never really responded to that. I just showed them with my action.
Yeah.
And when they saw me transform my life, literally transform my life, then they stopped asking questions, right?
Right.
Because, taking action is one of the most powerful things you can do. And, for the listeners, I just want to share with you that you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Let them be, right?
Amen.
Mel Robbins' new book that just came out, Let
Yeah.
Them. I love it. And I
I
just saw
love
her,
her.
right? Isn't she amazing?
Yeah.
And she just inspires me daily. And, and in my head, I keep hearing her voice being, let them. Like if I knew that when I was going through what I was going through, right? But I kind of knew and had something powerful to that regard, right? So just let them. You
Yeah.
don't have to answer anybody but yourself.
Yes.
Nobody, right? So I just took action.
That is wonderful. So, in your transformation, and I love that you said at the beginning that you took these small, measurable steps, and each day got better. Tell me about the steps. Tell me about how you transformed your life because it sounds like you were really struggling. Um, and so, how did you turn it around?
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. And I really was struggling, right? So to paint that picture, just so the listeners can understand where I came from, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't take care of my toddler, who was 3.5 at the time. I remember this exact instance where he was eating lunch in his high chair. He was safe. I was on the couch. We have an open floor plan, and I literally couldn't get up to help him with his food. Right. And it was just so miserable. I felt like I failed as a mother, right? Like I failed and I failed myself. And so some of the small steps that I took on a daily basis was I woke up in gratitude every single day. I'm just so grateful that I woke up again,
Yeah.
right? It could be a lot worse. I started writing a gratitude journal. The first thing when I woke up, I would write 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I'd flip the page and I would never look backwards, always looking forwards, right? I'd get up and I'd make my bed every day. First thing in the morning, because then I'm winning. The first thing I'm doing is I'm winning and I'm in gratitude, right?
Yes.
And then I would go to the bathroom to get ready, do my routine, and I would say affirmations into the mirror out loud, looking myself in the eye. I am impactful. I am powerful. I am a leader. I am strong. And it was different every day. Some days it was the same, right? But those 3 things really jump started my shift in my mindset. And that's the key in the transformation, Kelly, right? In anyone's transformation, it's the key in mindset. And so when you wake up and you're winning, you wake up, you're in gratitude, you wake up and you're saying these awesome things about yourself, you just start to feel better. You walk differently, you talk differently, your mindset is shifting. And so your attitude starts to change.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some of the key things that I did amongst others. But, I just want to share those 3 right now because you can do things in 3. People can do things in 3, right? 1, 2, 3.
Well, and that is 3 steps that anyone can take tomorrow.
Yes,
And I love
absolutely.
that. There's actually a book called Make Your Bed, and I think it was a general who wrote it. I will put in the show notes the name of the author, but he was in the military. So, but that was one of his things: make your bed at the first start of your day because that's success. And that was his attitude about it as well. So I love that.
Mhm.
And I also love what you say about affirmations. And do you find, particularly with women, we are not aware sometimes of the conversations we're having with ourselves when we're putting our makeup on in the morning.
Absolutely.
And when you change your mindset and you start to realize, why are you talking to yourself like that? Like, I wouldn't talk to a stranger on the street like this. Why am I?
Totally. Totally. And yes, absolutely. And, when you change your mindset, you change your life.
You do.
And, negative self-talk is one of the biggest things that us as women have to deal with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned something, Kelly, when you said, we wouldn't talk to strangers like this, but we yet have to have first the awareness that we're actually doing this to ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Because without awareness, there is no change.
Right.
But when we have the awareness that we're doing this to ourselves and not others, then we can take the step to change and to shift our mindset, to shift our perspective, and to change our attitude.
So when you are working with clients, is one of the first things you tell them to do is to kind of pay attention to that quiet little voice that's in their head? And how, and because really you just go through unconsciously throughout the day and you're, oh, I didn't get dinner, didn't work out, and I can't cook, or it's so funny that you don't realize all the little conversations you're having. So is that one of the pieces of the puzzle, is start paying attention?
Absolutely. Start having awareness, right? Paying attention and having the awareness of what you're saying. And so many times, you're right, it's subconscious, Kelly, right? We have no idea. So then in that situation, when I'm coaching someone, write it down. What are your thoughts? Write down your thoughts. And then you can actually see them visually, because a lot of times we can't process until we see, right? So we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
So to have the awareness, then we write it down and then we look at it and we read it out loud. And I have clients read out loud to me as their coach.
Yeah.
And I listen to their voice and how it just goes really quiet, and they start talking softer and slower, and they may start crying because they can't believe that they're actually talking to themselves like that. And at that point, then we can change and shift and be able to change our mindset as a model of the positive change.
That is beautiful that you get them to read it aloud. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Um, so give me an example, of course, without sharing any details about an individual, but give me an example, because I know a lot of our listeners have gone through significant trauma in their
Mhm.
lives. So give me an example of a client who's been through trauma and how you would approach that, and what steps, those 3 steps that you talked about earlier, of course, but how would you guide them through that?
Mhm. Absolutely. So this one client that I'm thinking of, obviously we're not saying names, but she thought she was happy, and she thought that she came to me to help her with her next job move. And she knew that she needed something to shift, and she didn't know why or what it is. And she just wanted to be happy every day. And what we discovered through my coaching is that it had nothing to do with her job, right? It had everything to do with what was going on at home
Yeah.
with her and her husband and the relationship they have, and how he treats her, which in regard how then she would treat herself, and how he was treating the kids and how she would make up for it. And it all stems from her childhood and his childhood, of course, but I'm talking to about my client, right?
Right.
So what we did was, there's a way to take the imagery of what happened as a child and rewrite that story so the imagery is different as an adult. So we did this exercise of what happened in her childhood, who was the male figure that was doing this to her, and it happened to be her father. And she just kept burying it and burying it and burying it and never really talked about it with anybody, which is normal, right? So I want the listeners to know it's normal, right? That we don't talk about these traumas that happen to us because we don't want to admit it. And we also think it's our fault,
Yes.
right? We take the blame when it's 100% never our fault, right? So I want to be clear about that. And then we talked about what happened with her father and how he treated her and how he treated her mother and her siblings. And then we created the imagery of what do you want to look like? What if your father was still alive today? What would that look like? right? And then through that process, we discovered how she can change and rewrite her story as an adult for how her husband responds to her and talks to her, so that she has messages and comments that she can say back that are not accusing him of anything, right? Not blaming him for anything,
Yeah.
but just, no, I don't think so right now, or if you say so. They're just simple terms, right? That are non-confrontational, but acknowledge that she has an opinion and
Mm.
she has value, right? And she brings a lot to the table. And she's not the only good parent. There's both of them, right? And then every morning we started a routine with her, just like I mentioned before, right? Because I've done it. I know it works, right? Proof is in the pudding. She started making her bed every day. First thing she woke up, she started writing, started saying affirmations in the mirror. And what happens is with the affirmations, Kelly and the listeners, I want you to understand, when you do affirmations, at first, you're going to look in the mirror and say it silently in your head. Then you're going to whisper it. Then you're going to say it. And then you're going to say it while you're out loud, while you're looking at yourself in the mirror. And you might even high five yourself after because you feel so confident.
Yeah.
And then she started writing her gratitude journal. And then slowly over time, doing these small daily habits every single day, she shifted her mindset. She shifted her imagery. She rewrote her story. Her relationship with her husband and the kids were different and better because she was able to use her voice in a positive way because of her confidence, her newly gained confidence.
That is beautiful. I love the journey that you took with her, going back to her childhood and revisiting it and allowing her to rewrite that story. I think that there's not a person in this world that doesn't have something from their past that they would like to
For
rewrite
sure.
or process differently. Um,
Absolutely.
and do you find too that women, once we get to a certain age, we become kind of self-reflective about things that have happened to in our past and how they have affected who we are in the present?
I would agree with you, Kelly. And I think a lot of times that happens when we're triggered,
Yeah,
because the trigger comes from something from our childhood that we never dealt with,
yeah,
right? And so you get the trigger and then you start having these reflections and you're like, what happened to my life? How am I here? Like, how is this even possible? Right? But then when you connect the dots, it makes total sense, right? Because if you don't have the awareness and you haven't done the work to overcome it, then nothing changes. It's the
yeah.
same situation.
So, for that client who worked through so much with trauma from her childhood and then translating that into her relationship, um, so I guess that it must have been an adjustment for her family too to see a new mom, a new wife, kind of, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, and that can be the hardest part when you're doing the work, is the reflection of who you are becoming to other people,
Yeah,
right? Because a lot of times you shine a light on their insecurities. So through this process, you may lose friends, you may gain new friends, you may have new things that come up, new ideas, new issues, but it's all part of the process,
right.
right? So, and I coached her on how to deal with these situations. And sometimes you just say, if you say so, like, it's not confrontational, right? Because you're still doing the work.
Yeah,
And then once you've done the work, you are prepared on how to respond proactively without being shut down, right? Without being blamed. But yes, it is eye opening for the family and friends surrounding, and maybe colleagues at work, because you are becoming a different person. But you are becoming who you've always meant to be and
mm.
who you are authentically inside.
So you are kind of stepping into your truth.
Yes.
And don't you, I think about it in terms of my own life when I made changes in my own mindset. And then you find that some people will just kind of fade away because they don't really align with that, and you wish them well, because you're just on a different path. It's not a negative thing. It's just,
Right.
you're
Sure.
just on a different path. So people have to be prepared for that. When they step into the change, they have to realize that that change will ripple out into all areas of their life.
Yes, 100%. And I just want to comment something also you mentioned, Kelly. People will come and go, and there's different seasons of your life, right? So, there's your college friend, there's your grade school friends, there's your college friends, there's your work friends, there's your 20s friends, your 30s, your 40s. And not everybody is going to stay with you forever.
Right.
And that's okay, right? Because that's called growth. And that's because you're doing the work to change and be your true, authentic self.
Yes. And I think Mel Robbins talks a little bit about that. She talks about it like um, relationships. Like some people are, like the trunk of the tree, some people are branches, some people are twigs, some people are
Yes,
leaves. And that you
absolutely.
have to, when a leaf falls off the tree doesn't give up, it just keeps growing. And so must we as humans. Again, we love her. She's so
We sure do.
wise in such a just such a down to earth way of explaining complicated life situations, and I just really enjoy her a lot. Hey guys, Kelly here. I wanted to jump in and let you know that you can find out more about my work by visiting my website at kellybuckley.com, or you can find my books on Amazon. Okay, back to the episode. Just changing the direction a little bit. In your experience, how does self-compassion play a role? Because
Mhm,
affirmations are one thing, gratitude is one thing, but having compassion for yourself,
mhm.
how does that play into it?
It plays a huge role into your transformation and overcoming your trauma, your burnout, chronic illness, what have you. You have to have self compassion. There's no other way. However, that being said, when you start the process and you're going through something like trauma, burnout, chronic illness, you may not have self compassion. And that's okay. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with you. You can earn that with yourself. You can gain that with yourself by doing the work, right? By doing the affirmations, by doing the gratitude journal, by making your bed, by giving yourself, I call it daily joy injections, whether that's putting your face in the sun for 5 minutes a day, whatever it is, walking your dog, right? Hugging your kid, whatever that is, right? And you slowly can develop self compassion for yourself because you're doing it so many times, Kelly, when we go through trauma, burnout, chronic illness. We have been the caretaker for everybody else, and we take care of everybody else, but we don't give ourselves the same care, right? And I'm not sure why, but there's a science behind it that shows, as a caretaker, as a mother, as a woman, that's just innate in our human nature, in our DNA.
Yeah.
But we can learn how to have self compassion for ourselves as well as others. Because here's the thing that leads to love, right? And so if you do not love yourself, you absolutely cannot love at the highest level with other people. You just can't. And I've learned that through my transformation because I learned how to have self compassion for myself.
Mhm.
And I learned how to love myself unconditionally in order to love others at the highest level. And when you do this work, when I went through this work, the transformation is just magical. I mean, it is unbelievably incredible because your relationships with yourself and your people, your other people that you have relationships with, are so much deeper. It's not surface level, right? Because that's what self compassion and love does.
Well, and you're not hiding because you feel bad about something about yourself. You're not, kind of looking at someone with envy because you feel comfortable in your own skin.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it is kind of that core for healthy relationships, whether that be in your house, at work, or just, people you meet along the way. Um, I remember when I first started exploring self-compassion as a recovering female who who didn't do a good job with that, but I had a thing I put on my mirror, and it said, "You can't pour from an empty cup,"
No.
because I was at a point in my life where I felt like my cup was always empty,
Mhm. Yeah,
and so many women feel that way.
they do. They do.
What do you say to them when they come to you with the empty cup?
You're going to be okay. There's nothing wrong with you. There's literally nothing wrong with you, right? So many times it's the fear that's holding us back, right? And so I share with them, and this is great for the listeners as well. Fear is a made up story in our head that we start to believe is true over time. It does not exist. But we get to do the work in order to overcome the fear to know the truth, right?
Mhm.
And so then and only then will you have the awareness of how to get self compassion, how to get love, how to do the work, right? How to do the simple steps in order to change, right? So it's super important to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. It's totally normal. I went through it. I think, Kelly, you just mentioned you've gone through it, right? Listeners, I'm sure you've all been through it, right? We're all in the same pool here, right? But what differentiates us are the people who have the awareness and choose to overcome it by doing small daily practices.
And I think it's so important that you are having this conversation and talking to women about the fact that they're not alone in that journey. Because I think for many, many years, I think about, our parents' generation, for example, they just they just live with that quietly. They didn't explore it. They didn't it was just a different time. And so it's so nice to see people like yourself out there, telling people that yes, it can get better. Um, so for someone who is grieving, because this is a whole different, a little bit of a different beast. So someone who has lost someone significant in their life and they are deep in grief, or they've been in grief for some time, because grief is never the same for every person. But they know that they need to start taking steps. Um, but their heart is still broken into a million pieces. How do you approach that? Because I'm sure that that's a little bit of a different approach when you come across something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different approach because they're in a completely different place than other people that I'm coaching, right?
Mhm.
So I just ask them to breathe, right? There's breathing exercises I do. You can breathe in for 3, hold it for 1, out for 3, and then 2, and then 1. And do that throughout the day, preferably first thing in the morning and at night before you go to bed, and sometimes in between. And what we need to do is we need to regulate your nervous system and know that you are going to be okay. But acknowledge what you went through was horrific, absolutely horrific.
Mhm.
And nobody can understand what you went through. Nobody can, right? Because, like you said, grief is different for everybody.
Mhm.
And so we work through that and we start very, very small, right? Very small. Instead of 3 things, what's one thing that you can do successfully every single day? Is it get out of bed and get dressed?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then celebrate that. We're always celebrating wins. We're celebrating wins. And I also share with people that are going through grief, people are going to disappear. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they don't know what to say to you. So you be the one to initiate. Listen, I really could just use a friend today. Can we go for a walk? And you don't have to talk about anything of the grief. You can talk about whatever you want. And if it comes up, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
And if your friend is silent, that's okay. And just let them know, like, it's okay if you don't know what, you can actually say that. It's okay if you don't know what to say. I just need to vent.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And I'm glad that you brought up that, some friends just will kind of fade away because they don't know what to say. It is a difficult topic to approach. And a lot of people are afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing that will make someone, more upset. And really, and we can say this for our listeners, is that there's never any words that you could compose. You could be the greatest writer of all time. There's never anything that you can say that is going to lessen the pain of someone's loss when they lose a loved one. You can just say, I am here. I love you. I'm here when you need me. Like you said, go for a walk and be a listening ear, or have no conversation at all. But I always like to say, don't be afraid to show up. Uh,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to show up and say, "Look, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do." Because it's interesting with grief. And I was thinking about it as we were getting ready for the interview today, because from exhausted to energized, and I remember through grief, my exhaustion the was my grief. So I felt like I used to describe it as I would get up every morning, I would put on my lead boots, I would put on my sweater and then load up the pockets of my sweater with rocks, and I would try to walk through my day because
Yeah.
and that was the exhaustion of grief.
Yeah.
Um, and so having people to just reach out to you because you sometimes you don't know how to reach out to other people.
It's so true.
Mm,
Most of the time.
mm,
And, to that point, Kelly, for me, and I coach people on this too, but when I know someone that's gone through loss, most people reach out or trauma or whatnot, but we're talking about grief right now. They receive a lot of help initially or reach out like right away, but it's really like a month later, 2 months later,
mhm.
6 months later is when they really need you. And so I make it a point, and I coach my clients on this too. If they know of somebody that's gone through grief, just send them a text. You don't have to pick up the phone. You don't have to go to their house. Send them a text. Hey, Kelly, I was just thinking about you today. Hope you're having a great day. Right, Robyn? It's very simple, but just that simple act of kindness,
Mhm.
self love, and they will appreciate that so much.
That
Right?
that is such a great point. It doesn't have to be a big show of affection. It can be just a text message saying, "I'm thinking about you today."
Right.
Because you're right. Once all the casserole dishes are gone, you know,
There's so many. Like, what happened?
you got lasagna out the
Yes.
wazoo, right? But
Yep.
once all the casserole dishes are done and everybody kind of goes back to their normal life, um, you're left and you're still just shattered. And so
Yeah.
that little touch point from somebody, a little text to say, I'm here when you're ready to talk. I'm here when you're ready to go for that walk, um,
Right.
can make such a huge difference. And one other thing I would like to say, to our audience who's listening is don't hesitate to say their loved one's name. Um, I always found, after Stephen died, my son Stephen, um, people would not they were hesitant to say his name, and it was not in a malicious way at all. It wasn't because they didn't care about me, it was because they didn't want to upset me.
Mhm.
And what I would say to anyone who's listening is when you lose a loved one, a significant loved one, a parent, a child, a sister, whoever you have a deep, loving relationship with, you still have that deep, loving relationship with them, even though they're not here physically. And so don't ever hesitate to say their name and celebrate who they are, because that is a wonderful way to connect with someone who's grieving.
Mhm. That is so beautiful. And, Kelly, so many times I think you're right. We're afraid we don't want to upset someone who's already so upset, right?
Yeah.
But that's such a good point that you make about saying the person's name. because it brings life back, right? It brings joy and love and happiness, right? And my book is dedicated to my Nana. Her name was Anna, my Nana Anna. But, she taught me so much in life. And just being able to say her name, talk about her. I'm wearing red lipstick right now because of her, right? The color's red because of her, right? There's so many things I could list, like a laundry list here, but I won't right now. But just saying her name, and I can see, in my brain, the imagery that comes up, with her all dressed up and outfit and hair and makeup to the nines, and yeah, it's such a great reminder.
That's beautiful that you dedicated it to her. I love that. So she made a huge impact on your life.
She sure did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think she would say to you now? You've got this book out, you are helping people. What do you think she would say to you?
Well, I know she'd say that, "Oh, Robyn, I'm so proud of you. I knew you were going to do it. What took so long?" That's probably what she would say.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your Nana Anna with us. That
Of
means
course.
that means the world. Um, so what advice would you give to someone who kind of feels stuck in the messiness of their own brokenness? So they've, several things have happened and piled up in their life. They may have an illness, they may have lost someone in the meantime, maybe their relationships are suffering and they're absolutely stuck. And they show up to you and they say, "Look, I heard you have this new book and I need help. I know I'm stuck. What do I do?"
First, I would say, I acknowledge you, and I'm proud of you. I love you, and I believe in you to create a better life for yourself. And my book is the first tool that will help you get there.
That's wonderful. And so tell me a little bit more about your book and what topics you explored in it. I want to hear a little bit more about it because it seems so interesting to me and I haven't read it yet. So, but I will.
Perfect. So good. All right. So my book is it's real, it's raw, it's authentic. It's my journey on how I overcame my autoimmune disease and burnout and grief, and how I did that going from exhausted to energized and thriving in life. It's broken up into 4 different sections. The first one is the exhausted state. The second is hope. The third is the work, and fourth is energized. And I walk you through, what happened to me and how you can overcome that. And it's 90 days to your best self. So I shortened the time for you. It took me 2.5 years. You can do it in 90 days or less. And there's tactical action steps and things that you can do throughout the book that will guide you to overcoming and being a model of positive change. It's completely life changing. One of my, someone who I know briefly bought my book, literally just wrote to me the other day, "Robyn, your book has changed my life. I am working out every day. I'm eating healthier. My energy's through the roof." And she's like, "I'm not even done with the book yet." So I'm like, this is amazing. Like, oh, it is truly my heart work, because I believe that everybody has the opportunity to change their life and change their mindset to be energized and truly thrive in life, because every day is a blessing.
And I can say, because I ordered my book today on Amazon, and
Oh,
I was reading some of the reviews for the book, and people are excited about it. They are excited because it seems very doable to them.
it is.
It's not
Yes.
something that's overwhelming. You're not saying, okay, you have to start from scratch here, and
Not at
you're
all.
saying start where you are and
Mhm.
take these small steps. So people seem to be really resonating with that, which is beautiful. Because, our world is a little complicated and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are showing up to your book who are exhausted.
a lot of people, most people, most people in the world are exhausted, right? They won't admit it, but they are. Right. And here's the thing, Kelly, energy and thriving is a strategy. And if you don't have the simple solution with the tools, you're going to be searching for the strategy to overcome it your entire life. And that's what my book is. It helps you because it is the strategy for overcoming what you're going through.
So, knowing what you know now, what would you say to your 13-year-old self?
Oh, 13. Wow. I'm going to say younger, but 13, that's even younger, right? I think like 20 something. Okay. What I would tell my 13-year-old self is that, girl, you got this. You are so confident. You are a force to be reckoned with. You have everything and anything you need within you. So lean in and don't follow anybody. Just be you because you know exactly what to do.
I love that so much.
Thank you.
I love that so much, especially the part about following.
Yeah.
I think we all went through a period in our life, right?
Yes.
I'm
Sure.
thinking about my 13-year-old self as well. So,
Right? Yes, so
yeah,
true. And comparison's the thief of evil, right? You don't want to be, excuse me, comparison's the thief of joy,
yeah,
which is evil. And so if you continue to follow other people and try to be someone that you're not, it's first going to be obvious. And second, you're going to be failing your entire life.
yeah,
And that's no way to live.
no,
We want to be positive. We want to be happy and joyful throughout our life.
that's beautiful. Um, if you could distill your life lessons into one message for our listeners, what would you say to them?
Wow. That's a tough one, Kelly. There's so many. I'm thinking about it now. How do I compress this into one thing? Okay. So, lead with confidence. That's it. Lead with confidence.
Lead with
Because
confidence.
when you are confident, you walk differently, you talk differently, you feel differently, your relationships are different, your productivity is higher, your joy is higher because you believe in yourself, right? So just lead with confidence.
Mm. So, is there a question you thought I was going to ask you,
Hmm.
but I didn't? What was it, and how would you answer?
Okay. Um, why do you continue to do the work you do after 13 years and never went back to marketing and advertising?
Okay.
As I get that question a lot.
That is a good
And
question.
the answer to that question is because this is my purpose. This is what I was set on the planet to do, was to change lives. I love marketing. I love advertising. It's helped me with my business, being an entrepreneur. But my purpose is to help people be the best versions of themselves.
Mm,
And I know that what I do is impactful because I change lives. And you can't put a price on that.
you
And I'm leaving a legacy for my son and my nieces and my nephews with my book, with my work, with my speaking. And it truly is so much joy to me. It doesn't even feel like work. And that's the best type of work, right? I just absolutely love what I do. And I'm just on a mission to help as many people as I can overcome exhaustion, burnout, chronic illness, trauma, grief, and thrive and be energized and be the best version of themselves. That is my ultimate true purpose and my heart work.
And I can tell that you are living your purpose. I just feel your passion coming through on the screen, and it's beautiful to see because it's so needed. It is so needed. So before we finish off, do you have any questions for me?
How did you overcome your grief? What was the number, I guess, if you could give a number one tip for listeners and myself, I'm curious, what did you do?
So, my approach to grief was not typical. Um, I used gratitude
Mm,
from day one. And I know a lot of people um, maybe thought that was a little unusual because I started writing what I was grateful for on the back of a cable bill that was in my purse in the parking lot of the funeral home.
mm,
And the reason that I did that was because I always say it was God's little whisper in my ear, right? The reason that I did that was because I felt like I was standing at the edge of an abyss, and if I didn't start noticing what was still there, that was still a blessing, I would be lost forever. So, I used gratitude, and I called it one little thing, for the simple fact that I knew I wasn't gonna be able to find any big things. That was really that was
right? Yeah.
So then we turned it into a family thing, and, because I had an 11-year-old son as well, and I he deserved a happy life. I couldn't deny him of that, so I had to keep my crap together, right? And so gratitude was a way for us to do that as a family. So what was our one little thing for today? And I'll be honest, some days it was my broken heart continued to beat. Some days was, the dog, giving me big slobbery kisses because I feel like they sense your emotions and they take care of you. Um, some days it was my tears. I was thankful for my
Yeah.
cleansing tears. Um,
Mhm.
and each day, with each practice of gratitude, it was like we would weave them all together, and it guided us back to the light. So, primarily, gratitude is how I did it. Um, and I will say, my son was a gift, so I had to give thanks. It just seemed kinda natural.
That's absolutely beautiful. There's so much power in gratitude, and such a great way to, a tool to overcome grief,
It
trauma,
is.
burnout, because you still have to be thankful. Like, to your point, Kelly, you're still living.
Right,
Your younger son is still living,
right.
and that is a blessing.
And I think sometimes, in when self-help first became the new in thing years and years ago, and everybody was talking about gratitude journals, and it was more of a, kinda superficial approach, I think, to what you were grateful for. And I think and I love that you've integrated it into your practice because I believe that the true gratitude, the power of gratitude really comes when you're struggling.
Absolutely.
That's where the real power lies. And I love that that's one of your 3 first things that you get people to do.
Because similar to you, is that when I was struggling and going through my illness, I mean, I couldn't get out of bed, Kelly. Like, I literally, and I have a toddler. And, I woke up and I said, I'm grateful I'm alive today.
Yeah.
It could be a lot worse, right? It could be a lot worse. In
Yep.
the moment, I didn't think that, but I was telling myself that, right? But it's the truth. And, you just, being in gratitude just is so beautiful. So I acknowledge you, for doing that. And what a great way to overcome your grief and be able to share that with others, right? Because it's duplicatable. It's not something that's hard, that's confusing, that takes a lot of time, effort. It's just, you choose a choice, right? It's just a choice.
It is. And it's funny, you can talk about like the practices of positive psychology and changing your neural pathways, and daily gratitude practices, they change your neural pathways.
You,
And it's
yes.
funny. It's funny to watch now, because that 11-year-old is now 27. And
That's amazing.
And he's a grateful man, and
Beautiful.
he thinks positive, and he life is never perfect for anybody, but I've watched him blossom in a way, and I'm just so thankful for that we did approach it that way, and that we did think about, okay, we're here now in the present moment, but we're going to think about what kind of future he deserves, or we deserve,
Right.
as a family.
Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
So tell our audience how they can find you, how they can find your book, because that's very important.
Absolutely. Yes. So the best way to reach me is on my website, which is robynengelson.com, ROBYNENGELSON.com. And my book link is right there, goes right to Amazon, or you can go to Amazon, but I think my website's a lot easier. And then also on LinkedIn, Robyn Engelson, and Facebook and Instagram. But I hang out on LinkedIn all day long. Best place to get me. Best place to get me. Besides my website. My website too.
That's great. Robyn, I can't thank you enough for being so generous with your time, but also just so honest about your own experience and how it brought you here. I think people can take such a lesson from that, of how you channeled what happened to you and you turned it into something beautiful to help other people. That's yay, you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, Kelly, and just really add value to your listeners and audience and have this beautiful conversation with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, that's it for today's episode, but make sure you go and get Robyn's book, because she's phenomenal. Okay, take care, you guys. Thank you for joining me today on Broken Beautiful Me. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and insightful. Remember, every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to heal. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to me, and it helps spread the message of hope and resilience to more people like us. Don't forget to leave a review and share this podcast with your friends and family. Together, we can create a community of strength and beauty in our brokenness. Until next time, stay strong, stay beautiful, and keep shining.